You're listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast, the podcast for communications professionals in the corporate world who are committed to advancing their work and our field's reputation as critical business advisors that are not only invited to the decision-making table, but are required there. I'm your host, Tara McDonagh. Hey there, and thanks for joining me for another episode of the Communications Business Advisor. Today, we're talking about the agency impact on corporate communications. Dun, dun, dun. Just kidding, it's not that ominous. But those who work in communications in a corporate or related environment, and by that I mean people who work in PR, internal comms, public affairs, executive comms, they often start their careers in other places. And maybe the top two places are journalism and PR agencies. Both backgrounds bring good and bad into this new corporate environment and different roles. So for today, we're going to talk about the agency impact on communications in the corporate environment, what to take from it, and what to leave behind. First, let's talk about what many former agency folks do when they transition into a corporate role, especially those at the leader level, like a director or a VP level inside a corporation. Many, if given the authority to do so, will immediately implement an internal agency model straight away. And by that, I mean they will assign people to specific internal clients or business areas. And sometimes they'll even have specialty functions like designers and writers and account managers connected to this too. But the business area assignments is a pretty standard process for this internal agency model. And while this model might work in an agency, I am not a fan of it in the corporate environment. I don't know if that surprises you, but let me explain. It's a model that feeds the monster of the essential problem that I hear over and over, and I talk about all the time, that we're all frustrated with. The problem we fight daily. Lack of respect. Being treated like order takers. Being a service area expected to ask if they want a side of fries with their press release or their email. Or another analogy I hear is a deli counter worker. And as someone who's had that deli counter worker job back in high school, I can tell you it's a very different job. I've done them both. Communications leader, deli worker, very different. Now, the alignment of the actual work, like having communicators assigned to business areas, that could potentially work. And even gaining additional resources could potentially be easier with this model. When leaders see a comms person as like, quote unquote, their comms person, like they own them, and then they want more comms, they might be willing to add more budget. But it's ultimately borrowing time against a long-term problem that will rage against you. The real problem with the internal agency model is that it allows the function to be treated as a service area, not a partner area. It's a partner area. That's what we do. We are not a service area. So it's fine if you want to do what I call communications waitressing, like taking an order and fulfilling a request. And by the way, if that's you, you're not for me. You might as well just stop listening now because you will not gain anything from this. But if you're not okay being considered a service area, if you want to be a business partner who's seen and acts like they have the same goal as every other business area, seeing the company succeed, then putting an internal agency model into practice allows the comms team to treat their quote unquote clients like they own the goal. The internal clients own the goal. And then that results in a significant power imbalance. Comms treats them as a business area to be serviced. We become deferential, and people-pleasing rules the day. That is a massive dysfunction in the system. We cannot get out of this service area mentality if we set up structures and systems that reinforce client-pleasing over business impact. Pleasing a business area leader over what's right for the overall business. Communications is a business area department, just like any other. We partner with peers in other business areas, and this part's important, whether they are senior level to you or not, to advance a business goal. So when we talk about internal agency models and implement them, when we use language like internal clients, when we resource according to internal client budgets, it's a massive problem. Now, when I refer to aligning budgets to internal clients, here's what I mean. What happens if IT decides to dedicate more resource to communications than product does? IT has more staff and budget dedicated to communicating their work and priorities, even though product is the area that requires more attention and resource, both internally and externally, in this particular example. This results in lopsided comms. The audience, meaning like the employees and the external customers, the stakeholders, they end up hearing more about IT than they do product. And that is not considering what's best for the audiences or for the business. It's simply pleasing the business area, not the entire business. And it's not right for the audience, which means you lose credibility and you lose attention. Rethink this. Communicators are business advisors and partners, not order takers in service areas. If we set up our structures to match what agencies look like, we lose something significant in our partnership thinking and actions. Most importantly, our field continues to lose the battle for treatment as a critical function, a critical business function, not a service area. Now, if you want to have a central model where you assign comms pros to be business area experts, like partnering with specific business areas within the company while doing the work, that's different. That can work when there's still a central model and central comms decision-making on resources and navigation of work and the language used. Hint, you're never dealing with internal clients, you're dealing with internal partners. Anyway, that's not an agency model where the client's being serviced. That's a little different. But also, these aren't the only ways to structure a comms team either. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So in a future episode, we'll talk about org structures. Let's take a quick break now. I'll be right back to talk about agency hires in a corporate setting. The Communications Business Advisor podcast is brought to you by Raise the Tide, the program for women communications leaders and emerging leaders working in the corporate environment. Raise the Tide is part community, part coaching, part professional development, and part mentorship. The program advances women in their careers and activates these trailblazers to advance our vision of a corporate world that not only invites communications leaders to act as critical advisors, but expects them to. A rising tide raises all ships, but we're not the ships. Together, we're the force of the tide, raising the ships for our entire industry. For more information, visit www.raisethetide.net. Okay, we're back. So, back on the impact of agencies inside a corporate environment. It's agency hires. Let's talk about that. First, I absolutely understand why people love to hire people who have agency experience into a corporate communications environment. I was one of them, both as the person hired and as the person doing the hiring. Agency folk can juggle a ridiculous volume of priorities. I remember as an account manager, I had 5 clients that I managed PR work and staff work for. And account managers in PR agencies, just so we're all clear, unlike in most marketing agencies, actually do the pitching and the writing and the reports and whatnot too. They don't just manage other people that are doing it and the project work. And by the way, I was guided to tell my clients when asked that I had 3 clients, not 5. There's something wrong there. But anyway, that thinking can then get embedded in our psyches. Don't tell people the other stuff you're working on. They don't care and it'll get you in trouble. So like any change, it can take time to untrain that. But if you don't recognize it or address it, you're spending your time figuring out how to do all the things for all of the people without ever recognizing that it's too much stuff and not upsetting the apple cart. Agency pros are absolutely pros at that, at pleasing the client. But that can be a bad thing because it can be taken to an extreme. On the positive side, agency people can grasp complex issues quickly because they have many clients to understand and represent and present them to the media. They have to figure them out quickly. There's a very true adage spoken of often in agencies. It's sink or swim. If you've been able to swim in an agency, you are a quick learner and can juggle lots of competing demands. You're also probably really great at relationships if you've risen to the level of director or higher. Agency people learn how to manage multiple projects and people wildly well. They won't be promoted if they're not successful at whatever it is that that agency is known for: media relations, public affairs, crisis, you name it. This isn't to say that those who start out in corporate or journalism or something else can't have these skills too, but it's a near guarantee that if an agency person has been promoted within an agency environment, they are likely stars in managing multiple projects and people simultaneously. It's a superpower. But there are problems with agency hires too. I talked about one of them already. Here's another. The problem is when you bring that agency mindset into a corporate environment, you can take on a world of hurt for yourself and your profession. Because in an agency, no matter how many times you, quote, counsel your client or, quote, drive the recommendation, ultimately, it's all about what the client wants. Please the client. And often, we're working with clients who already know what we do. So when you're in an agency, you're working with a PR person or an internal comms person or a marketing person. They know what we do. But when you go into corporate, you're now working with people who don't actually know what it is you do, but they've come in with the very same specific idea of what they want from you. And then the battle starts. Do you do what's asked and please the client after maybe trying to counsel them, or you do what's right for the business because you know what you're doing? The internal agency model and everything from the setup to the language used speaks to the problem of agency mindset in an internal business. Some agencies are better at that counsel than others, by the way. Some are all about telling the clients what they want to hear. Others aren't. So then you might run into a department that on the surface does well. A comms department, I mean. People might like you. You do what's asked. But are you really making an impact? Are you using your expertise to advance the business? Are you doing the best thing or the thing that will please the client? Are you undermining your field in the process of creating problems for yourself? Problems that turn into issues like, they don't get what I do. They don't involve me early enough. I'm constantly getting dumped on. I'm working too much. Could it be that the internal agency mindset and model is to blame? Could it be that the mindset made you so successful in agency life, created problems for you in the corporate life? Yes. Let me say that again. Yes, that can happen. By the way, the opposite can be the problem too. When you come in with your knowledge and expertise and you steamroll your way through peers, providing your expert counsel without care for their thoughts, some of that how dare they mindset can come into play. And the thing is, they don't know what they don't know. They aren't intentionally treating you like a communications waitress, and they often don't know that they're doing it. Many of them are appalled at themselves when they see it in their actions, finally, with some sort of mirror placed up against them. Give grace initially. It's a great method. They don't know what they don't know. And maybe they were trained by others they worked with in communications functions previously to treat you like someone who simply fulfills requests, because that's what's worked in the past. You have to retrain them, teach them how to treat you, but do so in a way that makes them see how you can partner with them to solve the business problems. You end up with respect in the process. Asking questions is key to this. What are you trying to achieve? What action would be the ideal result? Have you thought about X, Y, or Z? I have another idea that can get us to the goal. Here's what it is. What do you think? Now, another thing I like to do before I even start to ask these questions is to set the tone for how I work and why. If they're not used to getting questions like the ones I just posed and see them as a delay in getting to what they want, then I just like to tell them up front what I'm going to do. I tell them I'm going to be curious and ask questions before we get to the end result. I may even share that it's my role to advise on how to get to the end result that they're looking for, using communications as a method to get there. And I'm invested in making that a successful win. So first, to do that, I need to ask some questions. You with me? Get their buy-in. Set the tone for what they can expect from you. Most of the time, you don't need to change yourself. You just need to teach people what to expect from you, how you operate, and show them you care. Bottom line here is the agency model inside a company and the agency mindset into a company does not work. It feeds the beast of disrespect for our function, and it just doesn't work. There are plenty of benefits agency people bring to corporate environments, but the model and the client service mindset, that's not it, my friends. Take what worked and leave the rest behind. Until next time, this has been the Communications Business Advisor podcast. Oh, and by the way, we're headed into the summer season, which means the end of season 1. I'll be back in the fall with more topics and more conversation. But I still have one last episode in me until we reach that point. Tune in next time, and then I'll see you in the fall. Bye. If you're interested in working with me to advance your work and your team's reputation as critical business advisors, never order takers, check out TaraMcDonagh.com. Thanks for listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a rating or a review. It helps people find us, and we can't ignite a movement without sharing the message. See you next time, where we'll continue to do the work to elevate our field's reputation and elevate the careers of the people in it.